For cheap gold, items and other boosts for Diablo 4, visit aoeah.com. Check out the link in the description, you get 3% off with the code ARIAD. Hello and welcome everybody. In this video, I'll show you some tips and tricks that can be very useful in the endgame. Let's get started. The first trick is for those of you who already are working on a second or third character. You've probably found an item you'd like to use on another build, but it is bound to a specific class. That's ugly, especially since you can farm very efficiently with the Spiritborn this season. But often, the class binding is only due to the aspect on the item. In that case, you can just imprint a new aspect to remove the class binding. That's how I was able to use these core skill gloves on my sorcerer, even though I found them with my Spiritborn. But attention, this doesn't work for all items. Some are bound to a class because of their visual type, so be careful when trading. A second little trick can help if you're missing attribute points for the rare nodes on your final Paragon boards. If my Barbarian for example needs a little bit more dexterity, I can simply roll it on some item with the Spiritborn. However, one thing you should urgently avoid is tempering effects from other classes, as this can completely ruin your item. You might think about increasing the vortex radius for a non-Spiritborn character because you trigger it by a rune word. But when using the corresponding tempering recipe, the item will get a new, permanent class binding, finally making it unusable for other classes. Even after retempering with some neutral recipe, the Barbarian still can't use these gloves here. The only thing left to do with them is to re-imprint a Spiritborn aspect. Moving on to a hint that you and your friends can use to reach Paragon level 300 faster. This tip involves the new XP shrines. They look like small wells and give plus 15% experience bonus for an hour. You'll find them in Nightmare dungeons with the Ancestor's Favor affix, which also provides 10% more experience within the dungeon. If a player is going solo and finds one of these shrines, he or she can invite friends into the group, so everyone can collect the shrine buff one by one. The XP bonus remains after leaving the group. Just like XP bonuses from elixirs and incenses, you can change your instance as you like, but make sure not to log out. If you quit to the character selection screen and then re-enter, all bonuses are gone of course. Here's another tip for the urgent need of Rawhide, which affects many players when optimizing their masterworkings. In general, I feel like the fastest way to get Rawhide is using a green opal and farming bosses back to back. They can be killed very quickly in high frequency, and there will be some Rawhide in every drop. Additionally, you can salvage all the armor parts at the blacksmith afterwards. If you're in a group and only one player is low on Rawhide, the others can drop their armor parts at the blacksmith, so the player who is in need gets the resource more quickly. You can do the same with weapons and jewelry for a player who needs iron. By the way, the best boss monster for farming Rawhide is the Beast in the Ice, as it has lots of armor parts in its loot pool. There is another method which doesn't require any materials and also works fine in a team. It's essential that at least one player hasn't completed the stronghold Temple of Rot yet. This player must be the group leader in whose instance you're playing. If necessary, you can create a new character for this purpose. Leveling up to T4 is no big deal. The Temple of Rot is located in the dry steppes south of Ket Bardu. The best is to start at the waypoint Girandai and go to the north. Simply run through the stronghold without killing any monsters. The Shroud of False Death can help here. Go to the monument at the end and open the chest next to it. It will drop various materials, including rawhide and iron.
Doch, 100.
After looting the chest, the group leader leaves the group and is automatically teleported back to the entrance, in a new instance. So that means you don't complete the stronghold and the other players can rejoin to run through again. Sometimes the chest even drops an item with greater affixes. Since this method doesn't provide XP, it is only worth for the immediate need of materials. But it's nice to get Rawhide quickly. In average, you should get about 60 Rawhide per run. But maybe this trick will get patched soon. Finally, let's talk about completing the pit at level 150. Of course, you can grind through it on your own when having a well-equipped build, but it is much easier when going together with a friend. Here I'm running with a clanmate playing a similar setup, both using the Soothsayer's aspect, which is essential to burst down the bosses at the end. This only works if the boss spawns any adds. But it works even better if one player uses Soothsayer's aspect and the other one picks the Moonrise aspect instead. We get through the dungeon much faster, and one Soothsayer is enough to kill the boss. At this point, thanks to Kilo for spending his time, and to everyone else in the community who shared some footages for this video. I've also made some adjustments to the Spiritborn's glyphs. Instead of Outmatch, Revenge or Managerist, I'm now using Hubris. The percentage note increases on this glyph are higher than on the others, I hadn't noticed before. I've removed Talon and added Fulminate, and since I've heard that Kenny is bugged, I've replaced it by Spirit. So I'm back using 2 glyphs from my mid-game build. I've updated the planner link, where you will see the standard setup with Moonrise. For high pit levels, I switched to Soothsayers, and for simple tasks like Hordes or Helltides, I sometimes even still use the Ring of the Midnight Sun. Another option would be to replace the Talisman to add another damage aspect, like unyielding hits. On the amulet, you can gain a lot of armor with the % armor affix, and like that, you also have another item where you can temper maximum resolve stacks and mystical circle potency. If the amulet comes with a strong passive skill, it might even be stronger than the talisman. The talisman adds very powerful overpower hits in a high frequency, while a legendary amulet would increase the damage of all our attacks. Hard to suspect what's better, I need to test it out. As you can see, I've greatly improved my masterworks. Especially the maximum resolve has added a lot of damage in the end. Several people asked me why cost reduction is a useful affix, so I'd like to explain that briefly for all. If you read the Rod of Kepelike, it says that the skills deal up to 30% reduced damage, based on their vigor costs. So cost reduction just makes your attacks suffer less damage reduction. I hope you can benefit from some of these tips. I'll say goodbye for today. Take care, and may the loot be with you.
Follow me. Thanks. Goodbye.